Welcome back, and to shed more light on the current escalation taking place in the Gaza Strip, we're delighted to be joined over the phone by Ambassador Ayoub Mahmoud Ayoub, former Minister Commercial. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon to you and to the viewers.
Ambassador Ayoub, let's highlight on the latest escalation and escalating situation in the Gaza Strip, especially after yesterday's strike on Jabalia refugee camp and the international stance, which only condemns the killing of civilians with no measures being taken on the ground.
What we are seeing is in Gaza now is manslaughter, genocide, whatever we call it, but is ethnic cleansing, and the strong resistance by the Palestinian, I say Palestinian, not anything else, to the invasion by the Israelis is a model for all freedom fighters. This is a part of the story. The casualties which we see, what is happening to the American U.S. forces who are contributing in this or taking part, the casualties, the deaths, I mean, is a very good example of what the Palestinians are doing with the Israelis. But the victim in this case are the civilians, because Israelis are unable to combat the freedom fighters, so they are targeting the civilians, children, women, elderly people, the hospitals, and all this. International community has a role to play. It is very important. If it does not play it now, when will it play it? Killings every minute, not every day, of the innocent civilians in Gaza. So international community, all the countries world, whether individually or bilaterally or multilaterally or through international organizations, has to take a firm stand against what is happening in Gaza. Stop the war and begin negotiation. That is very important for the lives which are lost every minute in Gaza. Otherwise, we will see more bloodshed from Israelis, not only from the Palestinians. So the Israelis have a high price. They have a high price to pay in this escalation, which is condemned by all over the world. Is condemned because it is anti-human and anti all the international law and all the United Nations resolutions. This is an occupied territory. Yeah. It is occupied territory, and the people are defending themselves. So it is not equal proportional war. When they are targeting women and children and the schools and hospitals, this means that they are unable to do anything positive. The positive thing which they can do, stop the war now.
Yeah. Ambassador Ayoub, 40 Egyptian ambulances entered Gaza on Wednesday to transport wounded Palestinians, and also first group of foreigners departs through the Rafah crossing. How do you assess the Egyptian stance in supporting brotherly Palestinian people on all domains, political and humanitarian?
This is a humanitarian stand taken by Egypt in this respect. We cannot forget that the Palestinians are our brothers and sisters. So we must lend a hand in every possible way. When we are doing this, let us be clear, they are here for just a very short time and they'll be back to their own country. They are not to settle in Egypt, anywhere in Egypt. That is very clear. Egypt is very firm in this respect and very clearly said, the President said it, the Prime Minister said it, and it is human factor which is affecting what we are doing in Gaza and in Rafah.
Yes, sir. Prime Minister Mustafa Badbouli, during his visit to Sinai on Tuesday, he said that Egypt will not accept anything to be imposed on it and will not allow regional issues to be liquidated or resolved at our expense. What's the importance of constantly rejecting the Israeli plans of displacement of Palestinians from Gaza that will lead to liquidating the Palestinian cause, and it will at the same time make the two-state solution unachievable?
Prime Minister Mustafa Badbouli statement in is very important and comes at a critical time. So there will not be misunderstanding of what Egypt is doing as far as Palestinians are concerned. We are firm in our stand. We give humanitarian assistance to Palestinians, but not at the expense of any Egyptian land or Egyptian territory. That should be clear to Palestinians and to Israelis. The Palestinians themselves, they don't want to stay in Egypt, but they want just medication and they go back to their own country.
Sir, Israel has put 2.3 million Palestinians in Gaza under a complete blockade, cutting off all access of food, water, power, and even water fuel supplies. Now, how has Israel managed to do so despite all the global warnings?
What is happening is we are 2.4 million people, not chicken, in a big prison. And when they deprive them of the basic necessities of life, that is water, electricity, and food and medication, this is a humanitarian approach taken by Israel trying to quell the resistance. And they will not be able to quell the resistance in Palestine or in Gaza because the people are defending their own land. Egypt is very firm in this respect, and it should stop its aggression now, because the longer it takes, the more casualties between Israelis themselves will happen. And we have seen the number of casualties between Israelis is high, but they are denying it, or we know just a part of it. But big casualties are between the Israelis who are invading Gaza, the northern part of Gaza, and this is detrimental to peace in the Middle East and can spread to other countries in the area.
Right. Ambassador Ayoub, Gaza faces the ongoing threat of severe dehydration and starvation due to Israel's persistent bombardment. Now, what scenarios are expected to be used in dealing with such deterioration and such a humanitarian crisis?
Egypt has ventured and took the initiative to supply them with a long convoys of water, food, medication, and so on. But the Israelis are just permitting a very small number of containers to enter Gaza. It is a humanitarian situation which will not be forgotten either by Arabs or by Palestinians or by Egypt in this respect. Egypt is very firm in its stand as far as giving every possible material assistance to the Palestinians so that they can have the minimum requirements of life, that is water, food, and the medication. And we are now letting some casualties to be medicated in Egypt.
Right. Ambassador Ayoub, how far expanding the Gaza blockade and its isolation will allow Israel to continue its atrocities against the Palestinians?
The international community, that is the countries of the world, especially the Western countries, should rethink about their stand regarding this issue. What they are doing, they are prolonging the time of casualties, prolonging the time of war. No, they are not helping any party. They are not helping the Israelis in this way, but this is what they are doing is to the disadvantage of the Israelis themselves, and at the cost of the Israelis. We see the exodus of Israelis going to other countries in the world, flying away from Israel. So the Western world must come to conclusion very early that they should pressure Israel to stop aggression against the civilians in Gaza, especially the women, the elderly, and the children, and schools and hospitals, as we have seen from many news footage.
Well, I would like to thank you very much, Ambassador Ayoub Mahmoud Ayoub, former Minister Commercial. Many thanks for your insight, sir. And dear viewers, now we go to a short break and we'll be right back.